Hello, this is Algorithm, and today we will be going over Problem Chef in Fantasy League FFL from the April Lunchtime 2020 Division 2. So to briefly go over the problem statement, Chef wants to buy one forward and one defender, which are football players, to complete his team. There are n available players, and each player, which he can buy, has a price and is either a forward or a defender, which are marked with the labels 1 and 0. He has already spent S dollars on his team and has a budget of maximum $100. So can he complete his team? Let's quickly go over the input and output. You're going to start off with an integer t, which represents the number of test cases. For each t, you're going to have an integer n and s. N stands for the amount of players available which he can choose from, and s is the amount of money he has already spent. And then for each of those, for each of the n players, there will be a price. And then there will also be a type, 0 or 1, indicating if it is a defender or a forward. And then the output, you would want to print yes if you can create a team and stay within the budget, or no if you cannot. Let's move on to the solution of the problem. So for each test case, you're going to store the prices of the available players in an integer array. Then after that, you're going to input the type of player and keep a running minimum for the cost of each type. Basically, for each type, you're going to have a variable called minimum for that type, and you're going to loop through the array. You're going to check what type it is, and for that type, you're going to compare if its price is less than the current minimum for that type, then you're going to change it because you want the minimum value. But if it is greater, the price is greater than the current minimum, then you don't want to do anything. So here in our example, we have two variables, D and F, for the minimums. We go on to that 3, we see that the type is a 0 when we input it. So we know that it is a defender, and we will have it starting out as the minimum for the defenders. Then we move on to the 8. We see that it is a forward now. So we set it as the minimum for the forward because there are no other numbers right now. Then we move on to the 6. Now we see that this is a forward again. But we see that if the current minimum for forwards is 8, and this forward price is 6, then we want to change the minimum to 6. So 6 becomes the new minimum price for the forward. And then we move on to 5, but 3 is already the minimum price for the defender, so we don't do anything with that. So now we have our two minimums for the defender and the forward as 3 and 6. And then the third step is to add the two minimums to S and check if the total price is less than or equal to 100. Now we will be going over the actual code implementation of this solution. So here we just have our integer t and input in t. Then over here, we are going to go into our actual function. So we're going to input n and s over here, and we're going to create our integer array for the prices. Now for each prices, we're going to input into the array, so we have all of the prices into the array for the n players. Then we're going to have two integers for the minimums for the defender and the minimum for the forward. The reason why we set it to 1000 is because we want the first element we come across for both the defender and the forward to be set as the current minimum. So for example, if the first element in the array we have is 3 for a defender, we want the new minimum to change to 3 because that is the only value we have right now. And then it is going to keep on updating more and more and more as more values come in. Now over here, we are going to input in our type, and then this is where we update it. So we're going to check the type for the defenders and the forwards, and then basically, if the price is less than the minimum price for the current type, then we're going to update the minimum price. And then at the end, once all that is done, we're going to check our conditions, which is the third step. If S plus the new additional cost for the new players is greater than 100, meaning it exceeds the budget, we're going to print out no. If not, we're going to print out yes. And submitting this gives us a check mark over here, and we have solved the problem.